Are you ready to talk all things energy, all things that we can share with our kids about energy and ideas of how we can support our kids' energy, how we can protect our kids' energy, recharge their energy, what can help teach our kids to stay grounded in their bodies? Join us today as we talk about all these things with Jen McNerney. Welcome, spiritual parents. Thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends and your community. Our community is growing, and I'm hearing the most beautiful stories from all of you. So let's keep going. Changemakers raising changemakers. I have a guest here today, Jen McNerney. So Jen, I love sharing vocabulary for energy work and what it is as raising empaths and how we can describe it to our kids. Any pieces you like to do with your kids?
Yeah, and so I have 4 kids. It's really cute because they'll be at like Target and my littlest one will be like, do I need this stuffy or so? And like, so I'm like, well, ask your body. Like, it's like, you know, whatever. It's just kind of funny what they choose to do it for. But we utilize it for just everything is vibrating and has a frequency. So when you talk about energy medicine, that's how I talk to my kids. It's like your thought has a frequency, and that's how, and we talk about manifesting. Everything has a resonance or a vibration or a frequency. It's just energy. And we talk a lot about being terrible, no good hosts for parasites. And, but that's also in your body. That's emotionally, that's metaphysically. The language I create around my kids is just kind of living in my authenticity and giving them permission to live in theirs.
Ooh, that's really powerful. Authenticity is not really something I have described to my kids. We talk around it, I think, a lot, but like naming it hasn't been something we've talked about. That's great.
Yeah, and I think it's becoming more mainstream. I don't know if you're familiar with the podcast, The Telepathy Tapes.
I was just going to talk about that.
Yeah.
When you mentioned the non-speaker kids with autism, I was like, ping, has she heard about it? But I'm sure you have, because that's definitely your field. It gets me to a question I've been contemplating in my mind. Based off of an episode that I was listening to recently, Susie Miller, who is also a speech therapist like us, and then teetered in the realm of bringing in spirituality with the speech therapy. And it was a really interesting discussion for me. I'm sure you too. And I was curious, there was a part where she was talking about a kiddo and helping the kiddo to integrate into their bodies. And I feel like sometimes when kids are having these emotional moments or overstimulated moments or feeling like, I'm hearing intuitively with my own kids that the human body feels too intense. It feels too painful.
To ground in.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what your favorite tools are for kind of integrating those kids in.
You know, I have like the whole set of solfeggio healing frequencies, the tuning forks. And I think you mentioned that episode and I was like, I got so excited because I kind of pivoted and didn't really understand, like I wasn't really bringing in the SLP component and the frequency medicine or frequency healing or energy healing. I was really just keeping it separate, but the telepathy tapes gave me permission and also made so much sense because I would work with the non-speakers. That's who I would attract, like the really complex kids that were so highly sensitive and gifted that I could tell that they were picking up on my thoughts or my feelings. And I was like, gosh, it caused me to delve into regulating myself. So I wasn't causing dysregulation in them. So I kind of left that. I started a family, kind of shelved the SLP stuff and started doing deep healing work on myself. But then now it's like twofold where it gave me permission to be like, I don't have to pretend I was never a speech therapist. This is all like kind of synchronized everything back into like, oh, I've always been attracted to like sound healing or Reiki or just having that empathy. I think that's why I connected so well with the non-speakers, is because we were feeling each other. And also I never really treated those souls like they want to say, they assume competence. Always was like, they're so gifted, they're in a different, like almost in a different realm, here to teach us. And I think that's why we just connected. Like I love love working with individuals that are quote unquote labeled neurodiverse or neurodivergent. So yeah, but the tuning forks, I'll utilize them in terms of everything is about regulating the nervous system or integrating. I do a lot of primitive reflex integration, the Moscatova method, something also quantum reflex integration, which is pairing a low level infrared light plus the primitive reflex too. And it organizes the brain. It helps to integrate. And I have a podcast as well. And I had Akil's, you remember episode 2? I had Akil, he is the one who he was described that he can't really he's more in his subconscious mind and he can't really he has no awareness of his body in space. And one thing that helped him was primitive reflex integration, or they've done the Moscatova method. They're doing the quantum reflex integration. So he really had to anchor into his body. Your primitive reflex stuff makes you feel safe to be in your body. A lot of us are walking around with non-integrated reflexes. What does that mean? It means that your body's designed to see something as a threat, utilize the reflex, and then go back to homeostasis. But many of us are walking around in fear paralysis, where everything is a stress and perceived as a stress, and then your immune system tanks and everything is affected by that. So that's a really powerful modality for everyone. And the body stuff is so interesting because I can't say there's one cookie cutter modality that's going to work every time for everybody. And that's why I love applied kinesiology and muscle testing, because it gives a unique, individualized aspect to energy healing. So I utilize it to see what tools are going to bring the person the most homeostasis.
Yeah, I love the muscle.
Session.
Yeah, I love the muscle testing for that, to help you figure out what's going on, what's their body needing support in. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's it could be essential oils. It could be that cranial nerve 1 that limbically helps to bring somebody back to homeostasis. Some people might get a protocol for a bath with the oils that helps them to regulate, or it's just so individualized when you utilize muscle testing.
It's really personal. I think to each person it has each piece of what they're missing, what they're needing support in. When you talked about bringing in the pieces of connecting, keeping yourself grounded in what you were doing yourself. So I think so much of the time there's so many of these kids that are so connected. They're connected to us. And we're realizing that telepathy tapes and all these other pieces are helping us to really understand that as parents now. And I feel like it's becoming, telepathy tapes has opened the door so we can talk about it more online, which is really cool. I love this
it.
Movement.
Yeah. Yes. And I really have to thank it's the non-speakers that really accelerated my healing journey. And then to now be able to give back in a different way. You know, they don't have to prove anything to me that there's telepathy, because listen, I'm trying to get to the the subconscious level that they're at, and they're trying to get down into their bodies to meet us somewhere in the bridge in the middle. Yeah. And, it's just been, it's really I will say the telepathy tapes and hearing that podcast, and I don't know if you feel the same way. It's been so healing for me personally, professionally, as a mom, and it checks off every category for me. What I will say about the non-speakers is I always noticed that there was very little ego there. There was such purity there. I feel like they have less of that. I mean, I know they're humans and they're in a body, right? They have their soul, they're in a body, but it's just a different vibration. So, but I loved that episode where she was that the telepathy, he's I need this tuning fork to grab the frequency of to put my body back, my soul, my emotional body, or whatever, my spiritual body back in. And I think us just being regulated enough and open to receiving those downloads, those frequencies is key, right?
Ever feel like you're doing all the things, gentle parenting, routines, therapy, but something's still missing? What if the missing piece is spirituality? Take our free quiz right now. What kind of woo are you as a parent? It's fun, quick, and reveals your unique spiritual style, so you can parent with more flow, trust, and alignment. Because we parents don't need more shoulds in our lives. Let's lean into our strengths. Click the link in the show notes below. Happy days, spiritual parents. Yeah. It was interesting when I was working in early intervention. I didn't have necessarily all my kids were autistic non-speakers, but I had a lot of like 18-month-olds and 2-year-olds who were nonverbal and had language delays and such. And it was so interesting to connect with them. I would agree they did not have like an ego piece. I don't think children that age necessarily have that ego piece. But there was so much of the puzzle was teaching the parents to connect with their kids. I was doing a lot of counseling and pieces of why is it that you need your child to talk right now? What is it you're trying to control right now that makes you feel like you have this urge, you want this to be fixed in this moment? Not pressure, trying to teach them about that pressure they're putting on their kid to speak was kind of a piece.
Every behavior that we as humans act out or play out has a purpose, and it's usually a spiritual protective purpose, like it's for protection or survival. So really regulating the nervous system to feel like it's not in a survival mode, it's more in these higher vibrational things. So a lot of times when the parents, I'm like, oh, well, your child is toe walking because they have a non-integrated this reflex that they don't know where their body, like there's always a reason. And that's, my lens is totally different now because of my journey. So going back, it's like people are like, well, wait, you're just not like I'm like, well, you actually have to integrate the reflexes of the hands and the feet. You can't before you could expect your child to talk, because it's such a fine motor movement. So there's like gross. So there's just it's just a different lens, and always it's about regulating the nervous system so it feels safe or it's safe to be in your body.
It's such a foundation, right?
Right. Everything. And our emotions will dysregulate us, and certain emotions, like if you look at the power versus force chart, it measures emotions by frequency or vibrations per second, hertz. So the solfeggio frequency of 528 hertz is about cellular DNA repair. It's the miracle frequency. It's your connection to source. But emotions like anger or shame, those vibrate really slow and heavy. So that's kind of why some of these kids will have trouble being in their bodies, is because you have to lower your vibration to resonate in these denser bodies. That's why these kids that are super gifted are having such a hard time grounding and anchoring their light into their bodies, because it's all vibration.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a lot to ingest for me. I'm very new to the tuning forks, and I was like, I'm so drawn to this. My kids
go with what you're drawn with. Like my kids were always the kids that were picking up. I've always been drawn to crystals, and even rocks, like cool rocks. Like I'm like, you know, that meme of like, why isn't it like cool to be like, hey, I found this cool rock on my hike, you know, as adults. And I feel like kids have that curiosity, and they're playful, and it's just so refreshing. So I always say there's always a reason you're drawn to something, I think.
It's so interesting when you have like the numbers for the gifted and talented piece. And I always try to explain to my kids this gifted piece of us that we come with, and this knowledge seeking can also sometimes come with a little bit of this perfectionism piece. Or, you know, I explain to our kids, like, our brains are working so hard that sometimes it makes us more prone to being nervous in situations. And so that's my kids in a nutshell. When we walk into a crystal store, when she was like 4 or 5, my daughter, she would go and she would just lay herself down in the middle of the store, just arms out, legs out, and she's the one
soaking
that can tend to be nervous.
that frequency, the calming. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the crystals. And she's also the one that has the weighted down dress because the pockets are so full of rocks on the playground.
Yeah. And there's like,
I love that.
There's so many things like Western meets Eastern. These are just like ancient things. I do something called neuroemotional technique, which it was developed by Dr. Scott Walker, who is a chiropractor, who was noticing he would physically like adjust the spine and the subluxations, but then the same pattern, it would just go out again. Nobody wanted to address the emotional component, and he paired traditional Chinese medicine. You can access your meridian system through pulse points. So even little kids can hook up to each wrist, like you're taking your pulse, and breathe and think about the challenge in both wrists, and you're going to hit your whole meridian system and where you might be storing emotions in your organs and your tissues. So that is been a life-changing modality for my whole entire family. Like, life has gotten so much better since we found neuroemotional technique. So
yeah. And even for myself, just being a highly sensitive person, I need that Reiki so that way I can make sure my system is in a good place. I love to do it when I'm sitting in the car waiting to pick up my kids, because I never know what is coming out of the school doors. I never know what energy they're coming out with from the day.
And one very simple practice that we have, because my kids are really sensitive and they pick up other people's emotions and they don't know if it's theirs or somebody else's, is we will have the mantra, anything that's not mine, please leave. So metaphysically, that kind of motto. And my kids are just really sensitive to the unseen. So I have extra tools for the metaphysical realm. And sometimes it's like somebody's corded into you, and so we do a lot of calling our energy back and like almost making like hand mantras, like delineating, this is mine, this is yours. So there's a lot of little simple reframes, and it's all about awareness, right? Like,
I love the this is mine, this is yours. I haven't thought about.
That's
a great
like when
visual for a kid.
Well, like we will take I'll just take my hands, rub them together, and just go like this. It's just something to delineate my bubble, yours, just running your own personal energy, playing with colors, frequency. It's just the genesis, like witnessing it happen is super powerful.
And our kids are born with this conscious spiritual connection. They're really seeking it. They're asking questions. They're wanting to learn. And then you're going into the world with this big sensitive open door, right? You don't understand the world yet. So I love these ways of teaching them things that maybe we wish we would have known as children as well. Many mind-body connection pieces.
So much. And we talk about emotions are just energy in motion. So when you don't actually like feel them, they tend to get stuck or stored in your body. So, and then another modality that I'm just now delving into because it is wild. A lot of it has to do with my own personal journey with sleep disordered breathing, a tongue tie, and palatal expansion, all of the things is your fascia. We have like this cool, underneath our skin is a whole fascia system that has consciousness and crystalline structured water. So like you can release a lot of things and regulate through just gentle. I think I'm good at it because I have the Reiki and like the touching with gentleness, and gentle but firm pressure over time will melt and thaw out some stored traumas, whether it's physical, emotional, or whatnot. Wow. So I'm doing something called myofascial release by John F. Barnes. He's just a really cool, he's a physical therapist, but he's doing things differently than more of this 3D realm. He works more at treating the fascia as consciousness. And it sounds like you're finding all the modalities to regulate your special souls.
I really like it. I feel like in speech therapy, goal writing has now gone from when we used to write goals for kids who were neurodiverse. When you look into a classroom, you don't know. Everybody is sitting in their chair. Everything looks even, right?
Yes.
And now we're trying to write goals to support any challenges, to support who they are, to support their strengths.
Yes.
And it's not about looking like everybody else.
No, which that is a big shift. And that's been the biggest thing with me returning to early intervention and being like, oh, cool. Like I'm going through all the EI training in Colorado, and it's always about child first language or coaching the parents, like helping their connection. And so like you being aware of like, well, why are we putting this extra pressure? A lot of it is because we have unresolved childhood emotional physical, so we're projecting that subconsciously onto our kids. And this is why I love, and all of your subconscious programming solidifies between 0 to like age 8 to 10. So everything we learn about the world, and we talk about I do belief work, so everything subconsciously that we've subscribed to as a belief, then you end up mocking that up in your reality. So I can give an example with me. It's like I had a belief of I must suffer to be close to God. Like I wouldn't ever ask God for help or connect to my higher self or source when everything was going really well. But I also was raised Catholic, and it was like this worthiness piece. There was just a lot going on. And so once I got really into the subconscious patterning and my why I subscribe to that and release it, it's like, oh, wow, life is so much better when I'm not actively looking for people and situations that just validate that belief that I've subscribed to.
They are our biggest teachers. So much comes up as we are going along.
As we're parents, our trip past. I realize me and my husband talk about where we overcompensate for things that we didn't have growing up. Like I had both my parents worked, and so like they never were at my soccer games, and they know this is just how life was. So like we're almost overly active in our like kids activities. And, so we're like, we know it. We're like, oh, this is just because we're trying to settle some hurt that we had or.
I over-parented my older son, or kiddo who was turning 10 in friendships. And I was like, oh, why don't I just, and he finally said, Mom, I have friends, like chill out. I'm like, oh, okay. I need to go back and heal inner Carrie a little bit, young Carrie. And it was pretty funny.
Totally.
But yes, I totally get what you're saying.
But beautiful that you are able to, have that awareness. Anyways, thank you so much for having me here.
And Jen, I love what you're doing. You have a wonderful practice in Woodland Park.
Yeah. I see people in person also. Like I do virtual sessions too. So it's energy. Great. Like as you learn from the telepathy tapes, nothing has to be done here. You can work on the quantum.
It's so cool. I love they're bringing it all to light. So I'll include it in the show notes and your contact and all of that. I would love to put that in there. Thanks so much for joining us and connecting.
Thank you for having me. It was so great to connect with another fellow SLP mama.
Please remember that the information shared on this podcast is educational in nature and does not constitute licensed mental health advice. If you need such advice, you should speak with a licensed professional about your unique situation. Thanks so much, happy listeners.